Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very glad to have you all here for this workshop deep dive on data spaces, selecting the right connector. My name is Giulia Giussani. I'm Senior Digital Innovation Manager at IDSA. And today I'm here representing the Tango project that organized this whole session for you. Let me give you a quick glimpse of the agenda that we've prepared today. First of all, of course, a welcome and introduction. Then we will have setting the scene on the topic of data spaces and the connector topic. After that, we will have a session of pitches of the 4 projects that are at the center of this workshop. We have, of course, the Tango project, the CEDAR project, DIVINE, and Datamite. After the first pitches to show a bit what the projects are about, we enter the deep dive of the session. Each project prepares some slides to show you what's the architecture, technical architecture of the project, and also what technical choices they've made with regards to the connector. After that, we move to the more interactive part. We have a panel discussion Q&A where we would like you to bring up your doubts, your questions. We have a pool of experts here and also some experts connected online for you. And of course, a wrap up and closing. Before we jump into the presentations, I would like to give the floor to the co-organizer of this session with me. That's Papis from the Lisbon Council. Papis, are you here with us?
Yes, I am. Hi, greetings. Thank you very much, Julia. Actually, I cannot really start my video, but that's not a problem. I just wanted to say to everyone that, hi, greetings. I'm Babs Hadjimalis. I'm representing Lisbon Council. We are a policy think tank based in Brussels. We are co-organizing this event together with Tango, together with CEDAR, DIVINE, and Datamite. And I would like to welcome you all to it. Unfortunately, I wasn't really able to participate physically as, unfortunately, again, I do have COVID. However, I'm warmly welcoming you all to this workshop. And before I give you back the microphone, the screen, the floor, Julia, I just want to state that it was Ilaria Fava from EGI and Giulia Giussani from IDSA who have supported this organization, the organization of this workshop. And I feel that I have to congratulate them, along, of course, with all the different speakers that have made us the honor to participate and represent their projects, as well as to provide us with their knowledge and perspectives. Thank you very much all for participating.
Thanks a lot, Papis. So more people are joining. That's great. Welcome. We're about to start with the presentation. Today's topic is a deep dive on the data space topic and especially on the connector topic. Let me set a bit the scene so that all of you are brought up to speed. What is a data space? The name may be a bit misleading sometimes. This is not a data lake. A data space is a new paradigm to share data. It's a federated approach. At the center of these data sharing ecosystems, we have trusted participants. And what we want to achieve there is the so-called concept of data sovereignty, which means finding a balance between opening up our data treasures, but at the same time, making sure that we always maintain control over what happens to the data. This is, of course, very crucial nowadays. We want to enable and unlock new potential innovations. We want to enable seamless flow of data. How can we do that if we do not have one standard to create data spaces? And that's indeed what my association is achieving together with its members. IDSA is a not-for-profit association with more than 170 members from 31 countries that wants to achieve a standard for data sovereignty and a global standard for that. Let me now give you 2 anchors for today's presentation. We will speak a lot about interoperability, but what do we mean with that? Please keep in mind, when we speak about interoperability, we usually speak about one, two, or multiple layers that you see here. This is a model from the European Commission, interoperability model. Going from bottom up, you will see that the first level of interoperability is the technical one. So making sure that software and hardware components are able to communicate with each other. One step above, we have the semantic interoperability. That's what we need to make sure that the data that is transferred can have some meaning, that the meaning of the data can be really extracted. And going upwards, we'll also find the operational and business and the legal interoperability. What do we want to achieve there? Pretty simple. We want to make sure that business operational processes are indeed interoperable, and we want legal frameworks and contracts to be interoperable as well. At IDSA, we look at interoperability with this integrated point of view. I will not go into the details today, but I would like you to keep in mind that what we are focusing in today's workshop is the two levels down below. So the technical and the semantic interoperability. Very briefly, a DataSpace is indeed a federation of different endpoints that are able to share data with each other in a more easy way and in a trusted environment. To do that, you need different elements, different components. They're summarized here. For the sake of simplicity, you only see two participants at the two sides of the picture. I will not go into the details of each element here, but we have to understand where is this connector that the workshop is about. That's indeed the core of this picture. Each participant uses a connector to enable the data sharing. I hope you can see there, it's marked with a pink magenta color there. That's indeed where the connector is positioned in the architecture. Very simple from the previous picture, you will see that the connector component is not that simple at all. That's why we're having this workshop here, and we will try to investigate how the different projects selected the connector and what kind of work they've been doing on that. In concrete, the connector is basically a gateway. That's a software component that exposes some endpoints and then indeed enables the data sharing. It can be operated where you want, so on-premise or in the cloud. And it's of course composed of one or multiple virtual machines and hardware. Then of course the operating system, the application container management, and on top of that, of course, different core components. The core components are a multitude. You can see them from the view graph here that I've taken from the reference architecture model of IDSA. And they enable different functionalities. You can see an extract here. So for example, authentication service, remote attestation, data exchange. If you go to the reference architecture model, you will be able to dig deeper into that. Very interesting. This is a bit the theory, the guidelines that IDSA is providing, but what is the state of market adoption? At IDSA, I'm together with my team responsible of investigating them. On one hand side, supporting companies in adopting the standard. On the other hand side, monitoring a bit what happens in the market. And this is an important publication that we've published. We published the most recent version last week. It's called Data Connector Report. In there, of course, we explain why data connectors are important, why they're so crucial, how to ensure interoperability. But we also provide an overview of more than 30 connector implementations out there, providing some references if they're open source, providing some general functionalities and more technical details. Very interesting, but the key question is, are they interoperable? We are getting there. And we are now reaching a very mature phase of data spaces where these highly needed interoperability I remind you, the technical and semantic one is easy to be achieved. That's why, that's because IDSA started working on a new communication protocol dedicated for data spaces, so specific for cross-company data sharing. This is quite new. We released the first stable version in March this year, and it's becoming an international standard. Together with the Eclipse Foundation, we are undergoing the long process to make the DataSpace protocol an ISO standard, and it's proceeding quite well. What is this DataSpace protocol about? The big revolution of it is that for the first time, we are splitting the control plane from the data plane. So we're splitting all the protocols for the cataloging, for the contract negotiation, and the transfer process management. And we are splitting it from the actual data sharing. And this is very important because it enables us to overcome the challenge that we have, for example, big quantities of data that we want to transfer, or different data planes, and we are relieving this constraint from the overall game, so to say. Yes, so very important to enable this seamless technical interoperability, to enable a first level of semantic interoperability, and enabling this flexibility in the data sharing. If you would like to know more about it, we've created a very brief, concise, and straight to the point paper, where we also explain what's the process towards international standardization. So it's really a must if you would like to dig deeper into this topic. Good. I would like to keep the questions for the Q&A part. So if you have any doubts, you would like to dig deeper into some of the things that I mentioned, please note it down, fix it in your minds, and then we can tackle them later. Great. I would like to now open the floor for the pitches. You see here our speakers for today. Some of them will take care of the pitch. Some of them will take care of the deep dive. I would like to now give the microphone to the first pitcher of today. That's Renato Santana from EGI, who will pitch the Tango project. Thanks a lot.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Lisbon Council. Thank you, Bobby. Sorry that you're not here. Wishing you well. I have to speak up quickly because 5 minutes to speak up to talk about the project that took us 3 days last week in Portugal to have the General Assembly. So it was, I can say, classify it as a huge project. Some numbers that thank you, Julia, also for co-hosting, for organizing us to present this project. I mean, Tango is digital technology for secure and trustworthy data flows. It's a 3 years project and finishing in less than a year now. The budget was 10.4 million. What's the aim of the project and outcomes in a very short manner, in a specific domain focus. As Julia was explaining, Tango is already establishing a stronger cross-sector data sharing, meaning using those connectors, etc. that she has been explaining. In a citizen-centric, I'm going to explain this too later with the use case, a secure and trustworthy manner by developing innovative solutions for environmentally sustainable and data management. This is the main goal. So the idea is we have 6 use cases or pilots. Smart hospitality. It's for a hospital. Also automatized, I mean, autonomous vehicles, those ones without the driver. smart manufacturing. We were there last week visiting this fantastic manufacturing. Just to give an idea, they produce all the pottery, all the plates for IKEA. So it was a huge one industry that we visit, had the opportunity. Public administration and retail sector in banking. Public administration, we have also the one use case for the visa for Germany. It's, you can think about security and secure data and protection, data protection. And yeah, let me know. And the benefits for the industry. Okay, since any industry, we as IT, the only way that we are really well recognized and carry out in their labs for industries is then when we provide costs and reduce operational costs, improves efficiency. That's for any industry. So Tango aims also this. They are, you can see 5 of the 6 use cases. They are industries, and we are trying to help them with technology to reduce their, again, operational costs, improve efficiency. When the results will be available, well, we have Kai Tai is here. He's the leader. Sorry, I forgot to talk about you. He's the technical leader. I think we are in a good shape, right, Kai Tai? For to have the pilots working. There are some demos here and there. We still have almost 1 year, a lot of challenge to be gained. And but from what we get from last week for this our General Assembly, it looks very good, very promising. And as you can see, there are different use case, very complete. I mean, the complexity is not simple, and we have several types of results and outcomes. And then I may sell my part also for my task. We are producing, one of the project KPIs is to produce papers. We are next month, end of next month, delivering our first, oh, that was a clock. Delivering our first white paper. We're going to approve public whenever it's ready, but the deadline is next month, at the end of the next month. The idea was to make a conceptual paper, of course, turn to Tango with distributed environments, secure transfers, and DataSpace. Okay, it was a great. I think it's a very good paper. We're still reviewing it, and a very nice experience. Just to give some personal touch, to see people trying to defend their part. And I have the good problem as a task leader. I have more people fighting to contribute in each chapter, which is a good problem. And also, we also had the opportunity to have lawyers talking to IT people, and they said, no, I don't understand about IT people, this type of problems. And IT people saying, no, I don't want to know about GDPR and all this stuff. So it's a very nice white paper, and then hopefully we're going to have it published as soon as possible at Tango Environment Infrastructure. I think that's it. 5 minutes? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Renato. Let's move on to the next picture. Franchesco from the Lisbon Council. Thanks a lot for being here with us. Please, stage is yours.
Thank you, Renato. Thank you all. Thank you, Julia. Good to see you all. Some familiar faces. We've been in touch throughout the whole week in other workshops at my booth. It's nice to see you, many of you again. So again, for those who haven't heard yet, I'm going to give a very bird's eye overview of what CEDAR is about. But I'm lucky enough today to be backed up by my colleague, dear colleague and technical coordinator, Silvia, in a panel. So very shortly, CEDAR is an Horizon project, Euro project, lasting for 3 years. We started this year in January, so we are still well, not a newborn. We are entering the end of first year, but I mean, we are starting to, well, not produce outputs, but to enter in a phase of a project that is coming a bit to maturity, let's say. The project is funded under the integration with data life cycles call, together with other 4, well, twin project operating pretty much in the same data sharing and a common European data spaces domain. Just to contextualize a bit, the project is fully aligned with the European data strategy and in its attempt to, well, to boost the uptake of accessibility, transferability, interoperability of data, but also to fully leverage and exploit the data sharing potential of the concept, at least supposedly, of the common European data spaces. What is it going to be the actual output and result? CEDAR is going to contribute and build upon the CEDs by trying to develop a framework and architecture to exploit the data sharing potential, and also to, with an ultimate view, an ultimate goal to support the development of a more trustworthy and accountable public administration governance. The ultimate goal would be to, through all of these tools and guidelines and say results that Silvio is going to tell you more about, to support the public administration to identify previous and current partners of organized crime infiltration in the management of public funds. So it's a big deal about. What are the benefits? The supposed impact and the hopeful impact we would like to achieve will be very high for the industry and the overall society, since the value generated by the access to data will be admittedly creating new streams of business and new economic opportunities with a more fair legal playground. And when will the result be available? And strictly speaking on behalf of our coordinator here that draft this last sentence, the result will be available in few years from now, probably I hope something at the end of the project, as the common European data spaces will be populated with data and the technologies for interconnectivity when they come to the mature stage. And yes, I think it's pretty much all. I won't dig deeper into the technicalities. Again, I will hand over the floor to Silvio about this, and also on how the dialogue and the interconnection between the CEDAR framework and the common European data space will be developing over the next months, even in the next days, as far as I understood earlier from Silvio. So this is pretty much all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Francesco. I would like to now call on stage our next speaker, that's Sergio, who will present the DIVINE project.
So, briefly, what's the aims of the project? The DIVINE project aims to enhance the data sharing and collaboration in the agricultural sector, of course, and by addressing challenges like interoperability and data ownership, two of the most important aspects of the data space concept. So its goal is to build a collaborative agri-data ecosystem that improves decision-making, and demonstrate the value of shared data. The focus of the project is on agriculture, of course, and driving innovation in precision farming and sustainability practice, while contributing to policy making and the adoption of digital technologies. The benefits of the industries, in this case, of course, as mentioned, is inside the agricultural industries. And also DIVINE project include enhanced efficiency and competitiveness through improved data sharing and collaboration within this sector, of course. By leveraging data-driven decision making, The project aims to create a new business model, foster innovation, and promote sustainability farming practice. When will the result be available? The results are expected to be available by September 2025 at the end of the project, of course. So, but in this way, we are working on the use of DataSpace, DataSpace protocol, of course, and to follow any aspect about the data sovereignty, the trustworthiness, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sergio. We will manage to dig deeper, as mentioned later on. All the project will provide you a glimpse of their infrastructure and the connected topic. I would like to now call on stage Alberto from Tecnalia, and he will give you an overview of the Datamite project. Thanks for being here. The floor is yours.
Now, yes. Okay. Datamite project. Quite a lot of text here, too much text, but let's focus on the full name. You have there data in caps. Of course, makes sense. Data, data spaces, connectors, we'll chat later on. And monetize. Stop here. Money. Money is a huge driver. Datamite has to do with data, make money using data. Well, perhaps not euros, but perhaps other benefits. Yes, that's true, but money too. If you are thinking about money and data, Datamite is your project. I am Alberto Berteaga from Tecnalia. We are a research institution in Spain, and we are partners of Datamite. And well, the money, the driver is amazing, but we will do more things. We are doing more things. We are dealing with interoperability, with trading, and with data exchange. In the name of the project, we have a really good resume of what we are doing in Datamite. Of course, you can read quite a lot of things. We are working with open source. We are working, aiming to deploy modules, software, multi-domain framework, tools and platforms to monetize, to trade data, to exchange data inside, outside data spaces, using different technologies. We have only 3 use cases, but they're quite powerful, 6 pilots with different elements mixing here, public institutions, different sectors. We have a multi-sector because we are thinking about the data here. And of course, your company will have a really specific business model, depending on the industry, on the sector, or whatever. But here we will deal with this general approach to data. What data you have? What can you do with that? What do you need to play with your data and to use it right? Here at the bottom, perhaps you can read that we are one of the use cases has to do with a large corporation. You know, large corporations usually they have tons, amazing amount of data inside, and they are not dealing okay with that. Almost none of them, at least. Of course, we are playing and we are working with the energy data space. We want to have these data spaces thing in mind, and we would like to share data inside a data space and win money, earn money from a data space too. The last 2, EGI and Mistral, are 2 projects that they are working with identity catalogs, federated catalogs, and different elements, technical elements we use inside Datamite. But well, just a few elements here to get a glimpse about quite a lot of things we are doing inside Datamite. Because, okay, at the exploitation level, the final exploitation results make money, provide tools to do that, provide ideas, provide whatever you need. Where I will start if I have data and I have no idea about what to do with that. Datamite tools, Datamite ideas, Datamite proposals could be a really nice place to start to monetize to monetize the data. For me, data is money. I have that crystal clear, so it's really important. And if you want to focus on different things, if you want to see different elements inside the project, you can focus on those 2. In Datamite, we work with the internal data. Let's say I am a company, I need to deal with data quality. If I want to sell my data, it must be really good. If I want to make good decisions, I need good data too. Anything that has to do with internal data and look for new benefits of my own data, we do that, and we speak in Datamite about internal data. And of course, external data monetizations. Here nowadays, data spaces is a huge play field. If we are able to join different data spaces and sell data there and look for new data there, that will be great. So internal and external monetization, that's a main exploitation results we will have. And you have a bunch of them at the right. You will be able to see open source framework, but guidelines, training material, business models, quite a lot of things, because again, this has to do with data. We need to tackle technological risk or technological tasks because we want to join the energy data space or potentially any kind of other data space, but the focus is always on the data and what we will do with the data. So quite a lot of results that we hope that will help any kind of company or organization, public or private, to know their own data and know how and what to do with the data. And again, I'm chatting about money. Perhaps you are a research institution and you need to exchange data. And in return, you will get more data to play with. You have your algorithm, your artificial intelligence. We can have quite a lot of scenarios here. This is what we think about in Datamite. And we will try to produce and to provide to you quite a lot of tools to be aware of that. And a final remark, you will read around their legal framework, marketplaces. That's really important too. The legal work is huge. So we hope that we will simplify this and we will provide direct guidelines and direct information related to data and data exchange. So you will be able to start dealing with your data internal or externally, thanks to Datamite results. And we will chat more later on. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Alberto. After the setting the scene, you now know more about what's the goal of each project. I would like to start with the deep dive, and I would like to call on stage the first technical expert for today. That's Kai-Tai Liang from TU Delft. Kai-Tai, please, stage is yours. Here's your slide to present the Tango architecture. Thank you very much.
Hello, yes. So thanks very much for the invitation and for the audience. So within the, yes, I also have two of my colleagues, Apostolis and Elias online. They are the World Package 2 leaders to develop this kind of fancy architecture. And now, as you can see, we have three big components of the Tango architecture. So the first part in the blue part, you can see is more for the user front-end access control. For example, we have a mobile app. We use the mobile app to access to the wallets for the SSIs to achieve the access token so that the user can go to jumper to the upper part of the dark blue part, which is more like a consumer applications. And through that consumer applications, the user can access to the Tango ecosystem, and then also the backend, the green part for the access control part. So this is the slides, the first impression of the architecture. And then can I control for the next slide? Yeah, thank you. And then for the connector, so is as its name, which is called the connector. We want to bridge the gap between the front-end user, the back-end user, and also the Tango service functionality as well. So so far, we choose one of the candidates from different database connector. Now that one is called the FileWare DataSpace connector, so that This connector, one of the props of this connector, that is, it can support the existing PDP and the PEP modules, so that we can use in the policy to strengthen the access control through our Tango portal, the service portal. And of course, we can use the ABAC, for example, the attribute-based access control, using this type of policy to grant the access control wallet. And of course, we can integrate this part of the connector with our encryption components, in particular the CPABE and self-encryption part, to secure the data exchange. So far, the Tango connector basically reached the TRL 6 level. So we can make it in a decentralized way. Also supports the decentralized SSI to maintain the true decentralized identity management during the user trying to access to the Tango platform. And of course, we're using the user control based on the data consumer and then the user rules. And then we're using the HTTPS so that we can add some level of encryption to protect the communications. Next slide, please.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Let's keep it like this
okay,
for
sure.
the first glimpse.
Yeah.
Then during the Q&A, please make sure to stick around, because Kai-Tai has prepared an overview slide explaining the additional connectors that were evaluated in the project, with some pros and cons, so that we can have a more fruitful discussion there. Thank you very much. Great. We can now move on to the next project. For the CEDAR project, we also have the technical coordinator. That's Silvio Sorace from engineering. Thanks a lot for being here with us.
Thank you very much to you and to the audience for the invitation, first of all. It's better if I use this one, okay. Even if I like to move and to show something in the architecture. Okay, let me start again from the CEDAR project. Of course, CEDAR is an acronym that stands for Common European Data Spaces and Robust AI for Transparent Public Governance. It means that we have two different goals. We have, okay, the transparent public governance, and at the same time, we have the Common European Data Spaces. Typically, let's be honest, we want to have more data. More data. We need data for training our modules, our algorithms, and so on. If not the same, we have to share our data. So there are the two different points that I would like to highlight in the architecture we developed. We have just closed the requirements collections in our project. So we are starting now the approach of the architecture and the implementation. We need to choose the connectors we want to use in our project. Okay, let me start from the very bottom of the architecture. Let me skip for a moment the connectors, okay, from sets. Of course, let's be back for a while. What's the scope of CEDAR? Okay, it's to analyze tenders, bids, okay, in a public governance in Italy, in Slovenia, and in Ukraine. And the goal is to understand if there are some suspicious activities. So we start from the collections of all the documents related to the tenders and the bids, and we will analyze them as documents, text, as national publications, archives, or even by using social media. But at the same time, since such data are not enough for us, that's why we want to connect to the sets, to the data spaces, to retrieve more data related to who, to what? I mean, for the organization, all the entities involved in the tenders and the bids, organizations, people, items, goods, services, and so on. So that's why we want to collect the sets. And then we have another layer, because we need to have our ontology for the harmonization, ingestion, data cleanings, and to build a knowledge graph, our knowledge graph, where we want to have our data model to be used. Then we have the analytics layer, where we have the LLM, natural language processing, NLU, natural language understanding, multimedia, and computer vision, because our documents typically are even images or videos, and so on. And in the end, we have the econometric analysis, and where we have also the correlations, the info we collected in the knowledge graph. And we show the results through reports, anomaly detections, deviations, profiling, and alerts to the end users. And that's why we are providing only alerts, suspicious activities, only the information that at the end of such process will be validated by a user will be provided again, will be shared at the end to the different entities involved in the data space. Indeed, we want to use at the beginning our 3 pilots playing the 3 main roles of a data space, the 2 main roles, data provider and data consumer. So at the beginning, one of the 3 pilots will play the role, for example, of a data consumer because it needs to collect data coming from the other pilots, and the other 2 will play the role of data producer. And at the same time, in another moment, they will change the roles. That's why, that's how we want to prove, to test the data spaces by playing the different roles. When we will be ready, even because for testing purposes, okay, not all data we are providing are real data. Of course, we are producing synthetic data and so on, but all the valid documentations, raw documentations, or computed ones or results of our analysis will be provided to the connectors. And on the side, on vertical boxes, of course, we have security, trust, and data sovereignty. And the goal is not only inside, of course, our model, our system, I mean, but also those terms mean also security and data sovereignty on the data space meaning. That's in few words our project.
Thank you very much, Silvio. I know that you haven't started in developing the connector, but I hope that the workshop today will be indeed very helpful for creating synergies with the other projects and speed up your implementation.
Exactly. We have experience as engineering. I'm representing engineering as a company. We have experience in data spaces, as Sergio will show you in the next presentations. And of course, my position is somehow better than yours, because in this moment, I can collect info coming from you, your experiences. We will share as engineering, not only as CEDAR, our experience, but in this moment, I'm in a better position because I can collect your feedback. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Perfect link to the next presenter. Sergio, floor is yours for the technical deep dive.
Okay. So, as we can see, the architecture of DIVINE is okay, the projector is not very clear, but the square in the middle, the blue square in the middle, is the agricultural data space ecosystem, of course. It's the core of the aspect of the main focus of the project. So an ecosystem of agricultural data space. So we want to allow the interoperability between the data spaces of course, in the agricultural industries, but in general, more in different data spaces. At the top, of course, we have the consumer of DIVINE resources, which can interface with the DIVINE through the enabled app, which are flexible architectural software application to allow consumer users the interoperability within DIVINE and for own data. And through the DIVINE dashboard, they can access to the agricultural data space ecosystem, which the DIVINE Agora layer that contains where developer and stakeholders can register their capabilities as resources like DIVINE providers, while DIVINE consumer can then browse the DIVINE Agora to find a resource and capabilities to match their needs. Under the Agora layer, we have the enabling services layer that provides the services for stakeholders. So in our case, we have decision support system, stakeholder open collaboration space, and other model interoperability. We are working on AIM Plus to allow model interoperability between data exchange, of course. And under the service layer, we have the data, where third-party resource layer, physical layer, communication networking layer, of course. The last but not least is the block on the right part of the IDSA. That is, of course, the other agri-data space ecosystem. In this way, once we enable interoperability within DIVINE, we focus to enable the same interoperability outside DIVINE, so in the other data spaces. Moving to the next slide. Thank you. To do this, we use the enhanced True Connector that is based on the first version of the True Connector, a connector developed by engineering and modified to follow the DataSpace protocol provided by IDSA, of course. Thanks to this, the unique value lies to the integration of agri-specific functionalities, in the case of DIVINE, of course, providing a seamless interoperability within the agricultural data space. This improves data exchange between different stakeholders and providers, and of course between different data spaces. The maturity of this connector is TRL 3, since we are working on the DataSpace protocol, let's say very recently. License is AGPL 3.0. The identity management is decentralized and with self-sovereignty identity. The access control is an authentication out. Usage control is the platoon usage control, and of course is based on user rules and user role, sorry, and user rules. The communication protocol we have implemented are the HTTPS REST API, EDSCP version 2 from IDSA, SFTP, and of course it's more other implementable protocols, since we can increase the functionalities of this connector. And also we have a basic user interface to access it.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Sergio.
Thank you.
I would like to underline here that the True Connector that has been mentioned from engineering, this is one of the 5 connectors worldwide that have been certified with the IDS certification. IDSA has come out with a certification process to certify components, of course, to make components more reliable for the end users. This connector is one certified by engineering, together with one from Deutsche Telekom, VTT, TNO, GATE Institute in Bulgaria. So some connectors are getting certified. IDSA is now in the process of integrating this new DataSpace protocol into the certification scheme. So it's great that you're already updating your connector to support the DataSpace protocols, that as soon as certification 2.0 is there, you can also certify that one. So great achievement. Thanks a lot. Great. We can now move to the architecture of Datamite. Alberto, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Julia. And again, Datamite, do you remember the money? Just quite a lot of text around, but in that, at the left, that pink magenta, it was magenta rectangle. Just over it, you have the payment module. And well, the 2 magenta rectangles we have here, those are related to that connector, to the connection from the Datamite ideas with external world with the data space. You have even not only IDS technology, but Gaia X technology there too. It has to do with the trust framework, the identity, quite a lot of things, but let me highlight that. Again, you can see quite a lot of components, quite a lot of elements that have to do with the data, and not so much with the data space or the connector that we will use to connect to a data space, because we are aware that every single company will have one or more different connectors to connect to one or more different data spaces. Perhaps the implementation of that connector is better for you for whatever, or I rather like that other connector, or I prefer to use that technology and I have this connector here. No problem. If you follow the standards, and IDS is a standard and we are working hard, they are working hard. Tecnalia is partner of IDSA, implementation partner too. We are doing quite a hard work to make the DataSpace protocol a standard, the trust framework a standard. We hope that even if you have your own implementation of your connector, if it is compatible, if it follows the standard, you will be able to use it to connect to a data space. So inside Datamite, we have picked one connector, a specific connector, to make the examples, to provide information, to highlight the benefits of to be connected and to use a data space. But for us, it's not, well, not really relevant. That's not fair. It's really important to have the connector and to know how to connect a data space. But we pick one just to show everything else too. That's the reason why we have this. And a few more words about the architecture here. You can see two different views of Datamite. At the left, you have the thematic architectural view. You have the data quality module, the data governance module, the data sharing module, the security module. That's okay. If you know a little bit about a connector and about a data space, it has to do with sharing, okay, but it has to do with the security that we have at the bottom, and it has to do with the data governance that we have at the left side. Why? Again, we are dealing with data inside, outside the company. We are dealing with data in different contexts. We are not dealing with quality or with the governance or with the security only inside the connector, only when we are sharing data. We are dealing with data quality, data governance. Perhaps in the future, you have your own connector, you have your own ideas, you have great security, and you need more information or you want to go in deep in data quality. Okay, you can use that left side, that green side of data quality module from Datamite too. We hope that every single component from this solution, from this approach we have, you will be able to use that, even if you are not using the connector that we are going to see later on. And at the right, you see the faces view. No? Again, the inside the company, the indoors data management, the indoor data monetization. You have quite a lot of data modules there that deals with data inside your own company. If the data is inside your company, you need security, of course. If you're not aware of it, you need our help for sure, help from quite many people. About the quality, how you govern the data is really important. And this is a recommendation. You need to have everything below the dot line. You need to be able to control your data. You need to know your data. You need to know what you can do with your data, how much value it has. Even if you use it for internal decisions, you need to deal with that. Trying to share data, it will be the top part over the dot line. Okay, and you can do that. Perhaps you have really clear data products or data assets, and you are able to publish that data on data markets. A common example nowadays, just imagine that you produce maps or you enhance maps for the building, for the construction people, or you are sharing health data from a public organization in any country. That's something you are doing in a regular basis, but you are not focusing on the monetization or on the benefits you can get. What happens if I apply artificial intelligence? What happens if I use the data in my in this kind of decision-making process I have, everything behind the dot line is something highly recommended before going to data spaces, because you will not be able to monetize, to tag a price in that money, in that data. Again, of course you can, but you will not be really sure. You will not have KPIs. You will not be really aware of the benefits of your data sharing over there. Okay, a few minutes late. Next slide, please. And as I said, we have a connector. We pick a connector in Datamite. It's the Eclipse DataSpace components framework. Usually we use EDC, and quite a lot of people think that the EDC is Eclipse DataSpace connector, but in fact is DataSpace components. We have in Eclipse, we have quite a lot of bits and pieces. It's a whole framework. The connector is one of the pieces. The graphical user interface is another component. In fact, is an extension. At the bottom here, you can see that, well, you have quite of links and information and the open source approach here and the compatibility with Gaia X, but you have highlighted the extensions part. Could be difficult to deploy, to program, to develop, to tailor the connector to use in your own company. At the left side, you are able to read that the access control and the usage control has to do with the data planes. The identity manager is not provided by the connector, but we have different extensions that if you want to use IDS standard, the tabs, the certification authority, anything that is inside the IDS standard, you can use it. We have seen here ISSH and single sign-on identities, DITWeb, quite a lot of things that have to do with Gaia X identity. We can use an extension inside the EDC and use that identity too. And again, at the bottom, you have the graphical user interface. No. Okay, because it's not inside the package of the connector. It's an extension we use. And this is really useful inside a Datamite concept because we want to produce quite a lot of things and we are using extensions, for example, to ensure our data quality. We need to do things with the usage control and with the access control, even with the data monitoring while we exchange data externally to other people, but internally too. So we use different extensions from the framework, from the connector to do so. If you have a real clear data space, if you have a clear organization data flow there, perhaps it will be easier to use other connector plug to that data space using a certified IDS connector that is a bundle where you have everything there. It will be easier to deploy that than trying to deploy the Eclipse DataSpace component for sure. But inside Datamite, we do quite a lot of things there. So the approach, the Eclipse DataSpace components framework was a really nice idea. And we play with extensions and we will try to provide feedback and to even provide open source code to the Eclipse DataSpace component and everything that we do in Datamite that has to do, as I said, for example, with usage control or with that monitoring, we will try to provide that as an input for the Eclipse DataSpace extensions. And even if people want to use them and tailor them and modify them, they will be able to do that because the open source code will be there. The licensing framework will be clear and you can play with that. Again, perhaps your company needs another connector for other data space. That's great. You can do that. That's the best things IDS and the data spaces have, that you can use Datamite, just forget about the Eclipse DataSpace component and just focus on your own connector, and you will be able to use everything that Datamite has to say and has to do about data space and sharing your data inside a data space. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Please, a big applause for our speakers today for their great insights. Some of them had quite a long journey, so I'm very happy that all of them are here in person. And also others will be there connected remotely to answer the questions. So big applause for our experts. We can now move to the Q&A part. I hope you are ready with your questions. I know it takes a bit of time usually, so we've prepared a warm-up question. I've actually come up with it because I see how much projects are discussing before ending up choosing one connector. For example, in my experience with the Tango project, we assessed this EDC connector, but then we decided to go with this other fireware DataSpace connector, also open source. So I would like to ask the speakers here, which other connectors were evaluated and which pros and cons you've identified. Of course, they knew about it, and I've managed to get an overview slide for each project. I would like to invite Kai-Tai again on stage to present the different connectors that you've evaluated.
Basically, Apostolos and Elias, and with our colleagues, we explore a couple of connectors. So when consider of the connectors, basically, if you summarize them in a general level, they just provide you basically several functionalities. The first thing that is authentication. And after authentication, they're using your predefined policy engine to check your policy. If you are matching the policy, they grant you the access token. So in general level, most of the connectors, they can satisfy you this kind of request. But when you are implement them, for example, with different partners and developers, they have some different preference for the software developer. For example, in the DataSpace connector, so they can align with SSI, for example, they can have some identity support as well, but they are not true decentralized one. So they will check your identity, but not true identity. So that we say that maybe we don't consider using this one. And of course, it can support us to develop some better integration with some components, for example, like encryption. And for the EDC connector, well, it can provide you a true decentralized identity management, right? For example, like we can easily using the integration endpoints for it to merge with our SSI Tango wallet. And then at the same time, it's very active community with well supportive, which means that if you have any questions, just like some other applications communities, you can just read the right papers, ask for technical reports, have some discussions easily. And of course, they can support different type of message communication, for example, like Kafka. And but the cons is very obvious because they have complex setup and configurations during the deployments, and then the usage policies must be implemented. So it cannot be set up in a very generic policy level. And at the end, we also explore the true connector, and it's very advanced and well developed. For example, they provide very fine-grained policy with my data, which means that they provide you the rules, the time intervals, the durations, when we can revoke this policy, and etc. And of course, we can use it to extend the control plane and then the data exchange easily because they provide kind of ports or plugin interface for us. And of course, this is end-to-end data traceability, which means that you send the data, who is the consumer, who is the requester, and who is the data generator, and then we can trace this ring. And of course, one of the disadvantage of the true connector, it is it not supports the decentralized identity management. So for Tango, you can see that we use the SSI because in Tango, we assume that we have different rules of consumer, data users, and data producers, and requester and receivers. So by that, if we have a centralized identity, so the centralized nodes to manage this identity will be overloaded. So I prefer the SSIs. So that's why at the end, we choose the fireware. So the fireware can provide us nice interface, the plugin portal with the SSI. And now, as my colleagues mentioned, in the GI, we already initially integrated the the firmware with our Tango connectors. And then the next step that is trying to access to more advanced encryption tools and merge things into it. Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions?
Thank you very much, Kai-Tai. We have an immediate question, so let's pause this glimpse on the connectors evaluated, and let's open up the floor for the first question.
Yuri Demchenko, University of Amsterdam. We spent some couple of years of studying work of IDSA. I was just 5 minutes ago, I came in this room. Can you say who develops all these three connectors? And where is IDSA connector? Is
Okay.
DataSpace?
The IDSA connector, Julia,
Yes.
maybe you can, yeah.
Shall I answer to this first part? Okay, but I'll stay here so that you can answer. You can ask the second question. So I will take this one. I'm from IDSA, since you missed the first part. There is no IDSA connector because IDSA is a standardization organization. So we create some guidelines and specifications for this reference architecture model and components. And then the standard is open, anyone can use it. The presentations today show that the project used some open source connectors. So on the IDSA GitHub, we maintain some repositories of the documentation, the specifications. We also link there to some repositories of open source connector implementations. You will find there different repositories. If you go to the connector report, I mentioned it earlier, IDSA publishes this data connector report, and in there you will find more than 30 connector implementations. In there, you will see. Yes. The second question? Yes. Sure. To clarify this point of the IDSA connector, that's a question that we get asked a lot. Originally, in the first stages of IDSA, there was a connector that is called DataSpace connector, developed by Fraunhofer ISST, and that was originally associated with the IDSA because it was used in, it is used in the testbed that the IDSA developed. So if you will go to the IDSA GitHub repository, you will indeed find an IDSA testbed, and in there you will find this DataSpace connector that was originally developed by the Fraunhofer ISST, and then it was integrated into this testbed by the members of IDSA. To clarify. Second part of your question.
Yes. So in this table, I see in the first DataSpace connector something what how's called resembles the IDSA connector that I looked 2 years ago. IDSA connector has three levels or three groups of implementation of function. One is connect, something else, and one is trusted executive environment. So this is a design, how it's called, not the best practice of design. If you in connector include trusted executing environment, this means that it is not scalable. Connector is something what is according to system design, works at the level of network adapter of our network communication. This kind of a design approach I know from maybe from 2019, and it still continue. So if we want to design a connector for trusted data security, for data processing, data sharing, we need to go for traditional system design, where data sharing or sharing is one level. After that goes the aggregation, and at this level, you need to provide some functions related to routing, to caching, including security caching, and go to the trusted executing environment that is at the level of computation. Why I'm saying this is cloud data sharing, trusted executive environment designed in this principle. Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and we also developed.
Good that you mentioned these companies. These are all also members of IDSA together with other 170 companies worldwide. I will leave the floor also to our technical experts. I'm more on a business side of the team of IDSA. I'm actually wondering what you mean with this IDSA connector. Maybe we can have a chat afterwards. I think you mean the DataSpace connector that was initially developed by Fraunhofer ISST. You mentioned you gave it a look back in 2019.
Implement a data flow inside connector is a design mistake. Data flow should be done, controlled at a level up of data connector, at 2 levels up. Data connector, metadata management, routing, after that goes workflow.
Exactly. Probably you missed the first part of the presentation. I kindly... Exactly. So I presented at the beginning a very big news that probably you're not aware yet. The IDSA created a new communication protocol. It's called DataSpace protocol. And in this DataSpace protocol, we bring a pivotal change. We split the control plane and the data plane. And we give some instructions on how to manage the cataloging, the negotiation protocol, and the data transfer process. So we give some guidelines on this level so that you can use all the data planes that you want, and we overcome this constraint of connectors that you mentioned back, that come back from the 2019. Yeah, these are indeed the pros and cons. Maybe we can delve deeper with the experts here. Please keep in mind that the DataSpace connector that was developed by Fraunhofer ISST, it was then maintained by a startup called Sovity, and now it's not maintained by them anymore because they're also involved in the project that maintains the Eclipse DataSpace components connector, and they have their own closed source Eclipse DataSpace component connector that they offer as a service. Great. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, you're completely right. And as Yula said, we are still evolving. This DataSpace protocol step, that is the last one, is really good because we have been working around data spaces, as you are aware, for years and years now. And we started really small with a really simple idea, and we are growing and growing and facing more and more challenges. And as you say, since 2022, scalability is a huge problem because for a testbed, for a proof of concept, it's easy, well, was easy to deploy a data space and a really simple connector, but we are dealing more and more and more complex stuff nowadays. And as Yula said, we have Amazon AWS, Microsoft is working here, Google is working here, and they are providing information. I'm thinking about people from Microsoft inside the Eclipse DataSpace group too, because they want to escalate and they want to use this kind of ideas and to build data spaces. We have commercial solutions nowadays. Sovity offer is one. You have a connector as a service, even a whole data space as a service. Scalable. Huawei has its own solution, even nowadays. BootX is the name of Huawei solutions. And we are improving the scalability, and we are improving quite a lot of things because the standardization of the DataSpace protocol will be a milestone. We need to follow that standard, and we need to decouple the control plane, the data plane, ensure the scalability, the trust environments. We need to run everything here. We are aware that we will be in the cloud, and the technical level has been growing and growing and growing. And what was a simple connector, the DataSpace connector, it was really small. One piece you can plug and that's it. It's deprecated nowadays. But yes, it's growing and growing, and the ecosystem is more complex. As I said, with the Eclipse DataSpace components, we don't even think that this connector alone was enough. We have different layers, different technologies. We need to plug different things and to run different things in different places. And the framework approach is fine for quite a lot of us. But I don't know if somebody else wants to. Thank you so much.
Good. We have another question here in Lecce. By the way, we have roughly 20 people connected remotely. I will kindly ask the technicians to support us if there are questions online as well. Okay, I will go with the first question here, and then we can tackle the one at home. Thanks a lot.
Richard Freitag from SUNET, representing the Swedish NREN. And my question is, what's the relationship between DataSpace protocol and the OCM protocol, especially in the context of EOSC? Because one of the requirements for EOSC is OCM, Open Cloud Mesh compatibility, so that the different EOSC nodes can share data. And OCM comes out of the box with own cloud, Nextcloud C file, for data sharing on a file level, which might either compete or complement with data spaces. So that's what I'm trying to understand. Would that require a OCM data space connector, or are they just competing standards? OCM is the manifestation of the outcome of the Science Mesh project. So it was originally developed within the context of the Science Mesh, and OwnCloud and Nextcloud, they implement the OCM standard, and there are W3C work groups for extending OCM capabilities. For instance, one of the proposed changes is to honor multi-factor authentication on an IDP level. If you share data, you could set a requirement. This data can only be shared to authenticated partners that have added multi-factor authentication. OCM is also adding application layer extensions so that you can share data on individual application layers for Jupyter Hub. The Nextcloud Talk protocol, I think, is also using OCM as a communication standard between different nodes. And we know that those systems are quite mature, and they come pretty much out of the box.
Thank you very much. Who would like to take this question? Please, Alberto.
As I said before, I'm from Tecnalia. I am not. We are IDS members. We are members of Eclipse DataSpace group that is working on the standard too. And I would not like to speak as a standard master or the standard owner, because we have a little participation there. And I don't know the OCM, the protocol you have been chatting about, but I am aware that during the standardization process, because it's ISO level standardization, OW3C, they are working in this kind of revisions, not implementations, not even collaboration, to say, okay, if we are trying to standardize this and that, if we have things in common, I mean, like if I am not, okay, but as part of DataSpace protocol, if we have things in common during the standardization process, we will realize about that. And we will tackle, for sure, we will contact and say, okay, perhaps we will not need to do this because it's already there in here, in this other standard, let's use that. And the other way around, perhaps we discover that we have complementary things that match each other. And I think that touch point will be the really important one, because I say, I'm so sorry, I am not familiar. I have nothing to do with the other protocol, no idea. But I think that the competition at the standard level will be not good for anybody. And I think that the DataSpace protocol is looking for synergies and looking for, okay, what has not been done on what can we do in a standard level using standard technologies, even standard ideas. If OCM reaches there before, I think that that will be included for sure. That just to highlight that, perhaps a competition will be there saying, okay, we have this protocol with some ideas about how to exchange data, and we have this other standard about exchanging data in another different way. Almost for sure, whatever we do under one standard will be not compatible or will be hardly compatible with the other standard. And if we have two things working together at the same time, that could be good. Perhaps we have two options. It could be bad, because if I want to exchange data with you, we are following the same standard, will be great. But if I need to exchange data with Julia that is perhaps following other standards, I will need to change, use different technology. Let's see what the market says. Let's see even what the European Union says, because I am aware that IDS people, Gaia X people, I chat about Datamite, about the legal framework. I am aware that we have quite a lot of laws and acts, Data Act, Data Management Act. We need to follow the regulations. And at least I am aware that the DataSpace protocol, even being a technical element, is following those patterns, is aware of those legal requirements, and they match them for sure. Nowadays, because as I said, this is evolving, this is changing, we have more requirements, we are tackling them, and perhaps quite a lot of words, but this is something that IDS people, Eclipse people, and or companies, organizations, we are working in projects, or as I said, me and Tecnalia, we are members of different companies, organizations, associations. We are trying to match everything in there, not to reinvent the wheel, not to fight against quite a lot of people. Or yes, because at least in Tecnalia, we are fans on open source. And the Eclipse approach for us, for example, has to do with the licenses that some connectors already have. Fraunhofer has their own developments, Sobity has developments, they have the licenses. And we say, okay, we at Tecnalia here, is Tecnalia saying, okay, we need to be open source. We need to provide this kind of code, this kind of solutions open to everybody. If we have a standard below that, and it's a standard, and here you have the source code, you have the open source code here that you can use to follow that standards. If OCM is able to do the same, that will be great. We will have. Yeah.
Yeah, OCM, everything is open source. And I mean, that's one of the fundamental principles that we want to follow. And I mean, ideally, you would have the big commercial vendors on board. An ideal situation that would be on our wish list is that Dropbox, and so on would implement the OCM protocol as well to be compatible with data sharing and honoring all those things. And I mean, for the DataSpace protocol, it would probably be the exact same thing. But my question is, would have been, should there be an OCM DataSpace connector, for instance, to be compatible between those two universes and create even better compatibility in the future?
The standards and the protocols could be there, could be used, and could be compatible, I hope. I think, again, using the Dropbox example, just to pick that little idea, inside data spaces, of course, we exchange data there, but we are thinking about each one of us publishing a catalog of quite a lot of data, and the data space has to do about how I discover that data, how I negotiate, or the machine negotiate automatically between that, and how later on, how we reach the data exchange. Not only, it's quite a lot, not only the data exchange itself, but the data space content is bigger, and it has to do with data space and some approach to data exchange. As you say, if I am using Dropbox or Google Drive or any Amazon solution or any Microsoft solution or any, insert here your favorite provider solution, that perhaps is me uploading pictures, photos, or that kind of protocol, the data exchange will be different and will be not, let's say, inside this data space ideas, because we will not negotiate each time what we are doing, what they are going to do with the data or not. I cannot think of an example, no, sorry, but yes, let's say that we will match, we will sign one contract, we will have an agreement, and I will upload data and we will exchange it in one way. But this data space world is, let's say, bigger, more different, more flexible. And of course, perhaps inside this protocol, inside the even the technology I use to upload my picture to wherever is following this protocol. In 2-3 years' time, who knows? Perhaps a data space will use the same protocol, or the data space protocol standard will include this protocol to exchange data there. Perhaps not to exchange contract with the smart contract, perhaps not for the contract negotiation, perhaps not for the data discovery, the catalog browsing, for quite a lot of things that we have inside the data space. But could be as much technology we have, the better. And just to wrap up what I said, I am sure that during the data space protocol standardization, this kind of matches or conflicts or competences or synergies will be discovered. And that's one of the reasons why a standardization process is quite a lot of years, and we have Eclipse there. We are member of Eclipse, and Eclipse is helping a lot to reach the standard as soon as possible, as feasible as possible. They know quite a lot. I have no idea about OCM protocol, but I am aware that Eclipse we know for sure. I'm sorry for the speech.
Thank you very much, Alberto. Are there additional immediate comments? If not, we can move to the question that was raised from the audience at home. Let me go behind the scenes. I will read it for you. So the question is, what is the long-term plan with the Horizon projects behind the pilot implementations? Who will own and maintain the marketplace and technical implementations after the pilot implementations? So this is for all our experts today. Who would like to take this question first?
Sure, and of course, for the different projects, for example, for Tango projects, we have 6 pilots, and then we're using the connectors, and then we put our knowledge, and then at the end we converge that to match the 6 different pilots. And after that, of course, we will trying to make the whole defined, the well-defined infrastructure, and then the Tango systems to be part of the markets. And then after they push to the markets, and of course we will need to spend some times and resources to maintain the quality of the products. And yes, and of course we hope that we may have share the open source technique. Maybe some techniques they're not open source, but we'll try to share some open source, like the samples of the source code, some part of the source code, and then maybe some white papers and etc. And then some guidance how to maintain the API and etc. to share with the stakeholders, so that we can provide a kind of the long-term maintenance for our outputs. So far, this is the initial plan. Any comments on this?
Let me say that I totally agree with you. I mean, typically in a project, in European projects, okay, we want to test something. And this is what we are doing even in our project in CEDAR. So to test the potentialities of data spaces. And at the end, since we are creating our own data space at the beginning in the project, the goal is to maintain such connection with the data space. So each single provider could continue using the data space to enrich the data. So that's, of course, the final goal.
Thanks a lot, Kai and Silvio. I saw that Alberto wanted to add something. Please go ahead.
Perhaps a clear example, so sorry if I speak too much. During this space work trip we are discovering quite a lot of things. Who will maintain the market? Who is the market owner? Who is the owner of the data space? It depends quite a lot. The technology and the philosophy allows us to provide quite a lot of different kinds of data spaces, even private data spaces, public data spaces federated each other, exchanging information. And with the marketplaces will be almost the same. I use one example. Perhaps you know, in Spain, I am from the north side, from the Basque Country, from a region, a small region there at the north, quite industrial one. And we have an energy cluster there. Companies that they already work together on the energy sector, windmills, energy from the sea, regular energy providers, logistics. It's not only, let's say, electricity providers, but an energy cluster, quite a lot of companies in a cluster, in an already existing organization, institution. And this cluster, this Basque energy cluster is promoting projects, promoting data spaces. And for example, I am sure that the first commercial data space related to energy in the Basque Country at least will be the one owned, provided, maintained by this energy cluster, this cluster of companies that they are already working together. They have a business and they will enrich it with a data space. And they will provide a marketplace for sure, because nowadays they are buying and selling data between each other. But they are aware of, okay, if somebody from the Green Deal approach or the Green Deal data space or a specific industry that is a huge consumer of energy perhaps can use data that I have in my data space. And I will be able, not the cluster itself, but a partner that is providing data in a catalog inside a data space. Somebody outside the data space will be able to connect, will be able to purchase this data. Perhaps one data space related to citizenships or to public administration. Perhaps it will be a town hall or the national government, or perhaps a company wants to promote its data and builds a data space. And we can have quite a lot of examples here about what we are going to do and who will maintain it. As you said, from the projects, it's not easy to deploy a data space. It's not easy to build a marketplace. As soon as we have one, it will be maintained for sure because we need them. And we are investing quite a lot of things there and money and resources. So perhaps it's not as public as it should be. But the efforts we are doing here, I am quite confident that we will maintain and we will be able to see them because we need them. And everybody wants, even if it is not the specific data space I need, being able to connect to one will provide me expertise about what to do and what I need and what I don't need. That will be for sure. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So while you think about other questions or topics that you would like to investigate more, I would like to continue with these glimpses of the other connectors that were evaluated in the project. I will invite on stage again Sergio, who will present the other evaluated connectors in the DIVINE project.
Yes, we essentially, yes, it's a very short slide, but in general, we considered the Eclipse DataSpace connector and components, of course, since it was one of the first that integrate the DataSpace protocol once it raised up. Since during the DIVINE project, the study of the ecosystem works together with of course the bonds of the DataSpace protocol. So we taken in consideration ADC, since was one of the first that implements the DataSpace protocol, but it's not, it doesn't strictly adhere to the DataSpace protocol specification. Very short, very small aspects, of course. And in this way, we worked on the enhanced true connector and use it as to prove, to test the interoperability between two different connectors that implements the DataSpace protocol. So essentially that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional question on this? Please.
Yeah, I try to keep the discussion interesting by asking questions. I have probably a million, but about connector certification processes, is it more a manual process or is there automation involved? I've worked in the medical field before, a lot with DICOM files, and DICOM is a 600-page standard. And of course, different vendors had different flavors of their implementation. So the project I've been involved relied heavily on unit testing, component testing, whole integration testing, and so on. So for the connector certification process, is there a technical testing framework available that validates your implementation of the connector?
Thanks a lot for the question. Sergio, if you don't mind, I will take it to give
Sure.
a quick insight on the IDSA certification, and then you can go ahead and add comments regarding the experience of engineering. Great. So the IDSA certification for components was launched for the connector component first. We currently have two methods via which the connectors can be certified. One is called self-assessment. Via that, there's an automated testing that you have to undergo. So of course, there's a checklist that you have to fill in, and then an automated testing with the result out of it. The second method is called concept review. For this, IDSA relies on external experts and has especially validated and approved a company that acts as an evaluation facility. They did a process on their own. They've been successfully approved by IDSA. And now when a company like engineering comes up to IDSA to certify their connector with the second methodology, then they will have to undergo this assessment from this evaluation company. At the moment, we have SQS in Spain. In the future, there may be additional companies. I hope these give you some anchors. What is very interesting is the DataSpace protocol will now be included into the certification scheme of IDSA. And for this, we are waiting for the Eclipse project to come up with a TCK, a technology compatibility kit, which is basically testing agents that will enable companies to prove that their solution is compliant with the DataSpace protocol. The consortium, so the companies are working heavily on this, and we expect some first results, something usable for engineering and the other companies that are now including the DataSpace protocol in their solutions so that they can start experimenting with this TCK in the next months. Renato, please.
Well, since you're here, expert, how long usually take this certification? I think that was one of his questions, maybe. Usually.
It varies a lot. The self-assessment is, of course, quicker. The checklist approach requires more time because indeed there's this third party involved. From our experience, we see that the companies needed to review their component. So there were always additions to be done. It really varies on the starting point. I know for sure that to speed up the process, this evaluation facility that we have, SQS in Spain, they offer also an integration camp via which you can test that the functionalities that are tested in the for the certification are functioning well. This is for free for IDSA members. That's underpayment for other companies. I would like to, it varies a lot, so I don't have it specifically in mind, but we can follow up with my colleague, Sonia Jimenez. She's the responsible for certification at IDSA. I'm happy to provide more details in a follow-up. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Renato. To the engineering colleagues, were you involved in the certification of the True Connector? Can you maybe bring your experience?
No, not myself. I was involved in the certification work, but apart from what you explained already very well about the certification process, of course, we have the True Connector certified since we followed the list of any needs and specification required for the certification, while the version that includes the DataSpace protocol is not certification, is not certified yet. Since I suppose yes, a process to certificate the DataSpace, a connector with DataSpace protocol is built, is in progress.
Exactly, and I will leverage this chance to invite all the experts to join our certification working group, because we are developing certification further, and we are in need for experts to speed up this process. So please reach out to me if you would like to contribute. We have a question or a volunteer here? Okay, please go ahead.
Hello. So I'm interested in this domain-specific DIVINE. So I'm aware that Agri DataSpace, that's a coordination project. And then how these two projects, I mean, one is coordination, here is more project, is it a Horizon project? Yes. Okay. So is it really aligned like between those projects? And another thing is, okay, EDC as a connector, I get that, but this doesn't control this usage access for users, right? That's how I understood. So within this project, what are you using for, I don't know, Open Connect, no, what was it? Open Connect ID or Clerk? And I know some other projects are using one of those if you're using EDC as a connector. So what's the combination for DIVINE, if you know? Yeah.
This is my phone. So the combination, sorry for if you repeat the question, the combination between the authentication and the connector used in, so in this case, so the identity management aspect or the access control.
Okay, so that's the, TRL3. So you are comparing this over EDS?
Yes, we not really, not exactly. We use the ADC to test our development, the DataSpace protocol implementation in the True Connector, since to check the interoperability between two different connectors in two different DataSpace. Yes.
Indeed, the comparison was just to compare the compatibility by using the protocol, the same protocol. So that we were not comparing in the other table the two different connectors, for how they are ready for the protocol.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So then maybe my first question with this Agri DataSpace, how is it coordinated between DIVINE and coordination project? Are they actually gathering some case studies from your project as well? And
the coordination.
So are you aware of Agri DataSpace project?
No.
Oh, okay.
The Agri DataSpace, no.
Yeah. No, okay.
Do you mean the Agri Data Value project. So I know that a colleague of mine, Anil, that is collaborating with Sergio in DIVINE, is also involved in a project that is called Agri-Data Value, or I have to double check with him. To answer your question, so we are trying as IDSA to create synergies among projects that we're directly involved in, and we're also trying to support with additional projects. So let's do like this. We can follow up specifically on this. I will connect you with my colleague Anil. We can check if the project that I have in mind is the same one. If it is the case, for sure, Anil is being the link among the two projects. If not, this is the perfect occasion to build up and connect. And Sergio, we can also invite in a dedicated meeting to see how we can learn from each other.
Yeah.
Connectors. We're not really talking about technical building blocks for DataSpace.
So we are not focusing on a specific domain. We are focusing on the connector and on technical interoperability mainly. Also semantic interoperability as far as the DataSpace protocol is concerned. So the DataSpace protocol is indeed this core essence of interoperability because it enables this minimum common denominator of interoperability as far as this cataloging, contract negotiation, and the transfer process protocol is concerned. Then, of course, each data space will have to define some ontologies and data models that are domain specific, and that's something that the projects have to align.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm from the Green Deal domain, and so that's why, like most of the projects that I know, they already have the architecture and then the building blocks, and then they know what they're using more or less, even if it's still in progress or experimentation, the stage. So, but I guess we're really, because I know the IDSA as well. Yeah. So, so this is only about connectors, but not really data spaces. Yeah. So you see what I mean? Okay.
No problem. So exactly. So that's very much related, and it's good that we start discussing this. We have enough time, so if anyone has comments on this, let's tackle them. Of course, to create synergies for agri projects, let's also follow up. I'll be happy to connect you with my, yes. Perfect. Thanks a lot. May I ask you if you're using already DataSpace connector, a connector based on the IDS principles already?
I'm actually, I know we're just a few of us. So I'm Kari from CREAF, and research center based in Barcelona. And not myself, I'm not an IP researcher, but our IP, Joan Massot, that he's in this AD4GD. So it's a Green Deal specific Horizon project. So within that, testing just a small Green Deal data space before integrate or test the interoperability with the actual data space, common data space, European sense, not in the European context. So for example, like nothing secret because it's in the deliverable. So OpenID, what was the name? Open Connect ID, OCD. Okay. OCD. And then now the more AGI, AI definitely, or identity and access management being used for other projects. And then what was the, yeah, EDC is one of them. And so testing different connectors. And then actually another question would be, do we really need connectors? Some technical people think that maybe APIs can do they can control access as well. So I don't know if you have any opinions about that. I would love to even discuss, because I don't have the answer, or we don't have the answer.
Thanks a lot. I would like to open the floor to our experts here. They can give an opinion based on their work.
Just a quick point on this. It's more to the aspect about the data sovereignty, trustworthiness. So I'm sure that who is sending data is who he tells to be. So this is one of the more high level aspects that DataSpace allow us. I don't know.
And I think it's the question. We have APIs. Do we need a connector? A connector is APIs. You can implement the standard. You can implement the DataSpace concepts the way you like. The connectors here have a way. The Eclipse DataSpace component have the way. We try to simplify sometimes. We try to open sometimes. And at least from our experience in Teclalia, not the problem, but the approach is that perhaps what I need to do is ABC. And perhaps Julia needs to do A23. And we say, okay, I do not need 2-3. And she said, okay, I do not need BC. What I need to use this connector or this standard, if I only need this, as I say, data governance, data quality, automatic contracts, everything you do inside a data space is there. Perhaps you do not need a data space. Perhaps you need to exchange data with other people in a different way. And perhaps a data space is not the way. Perhaps a marketplace where you just click and download a file is enough for you. And again, this will enrich and enrich and enrich. And as soon as we follow the standards, and as soon as we got the standards saying, okay, yesterday, not yesterday, but 5 years ago, a data space was this, this, and that. And it was clear. And today we have a definition, and we are approaching a more complex standard. And as we say, I have an access control API, I have an usage policies mechanisms. That's great. Perhaps you already have a connector, or at least every piece you need to connect a data space. Call it connector, call it framework, call it, but you have the technical elements encapsulated or not, in a bundle or not, in one system or another, scalable or not. But we have APIs everywhere. I'm aware, in each single connector we have here. And this is a personal opinion. I think that nowadays our problem is that every single one of us have an idea of what a data space should be, why I need that, how I'm going to use that. And as soon as I reach a standard, it doesn't matter which one you pick, we, me, them, we will be able to say, okay, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like that. What I'm forced to do that because I'm following the standard. And I think that we need to reach that kind of level of agreement, that kind of level of a standard. But the technical level is not easy, for sure. Not even having your own connector, no one connector, not even having the Eclipse DataSpace components. We need technical people to deploy, to know what they are doing, why they need to deploy this component or that technical piece. Perhaps I need to log with the decentralized identity here. I need to connect to a clearinghouse, a Gaia X clearinghouse that it's going to generate credentials. Why I need the validation here? I can produce my own certificates. I can buy the certificates. I can check it will. No, but Gaia X, it's doing that way. If you want to follow the standard, you need to connect to one of the different providers that are providing Gaia X clearinghouses. If you are inside a IDS data space, you will have a metadata broker where you will be able and you need to connect that, blah, blah, blah. I think that's the way. And the semantic back too, the context, and so sorry. Then we have the semantics and the vocabularies and everything else. That's the reason why we try to merge energy people with energy people, Green Deal people with Green Deal people, because as soon as we change the sector, we change the approach, we find huge differences between the kind of data we exchange, how we exchange the metadata, what we do with them, how they are there in the technical side, how we deal with them, how we process. If we are similar to each other, if we are both energy guys, will be easier to communicate. And the energy green people, you have a huge problem because you are almost related with everybody else. So the vocabulary, the semantics, the way we are tackling that. We are trying to do that. So sorry.
Thanks for your opinions, because it's good to know, like in other domain data spaces, and then how you are dealing with the connector. And then I see what you mean, that like it's not up to us that we want to use connectors or not. And then once the standards within this common data spaces are set, then yeah, I mean, if we don't use connectors, we might not be able to feed or exchange anything, right? So, so that's, I think, I mean, not to talk about the Green Deal, any sector specific, that's a common still topic as a connectors that across any domain, across sectorial data spaces. So I just, yeah, before I pass it to the next question, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, again, keeping it interesting by asking questions. So I was involved in a grant application for an IoT project that proposed using FiWare as the entrance point and data aggregator. And I saw that you had some FiWare references, and we had quite a hard time. There was quite a big technological hurdle involved. And eventually what happened was that we decided to just have an extremely lean, fast API-based implementation where the technological threshold was pretty much non-existent compared to FiWare, which promotes themselves as being an open standard as well. Are there any initiatives to lower the technological entrance hurdles that exist in building connectors, being DataSpace compliant, and so on?
Thanks a lot. We have here some experts that build on the DataSpace connector developed by FiWare. Kaitai, would you like to take this question? We have also additional colleagues online that can also bring their own experience on this.
Yes, sure. Thanks for the questions. I will add a general comments, and then I will give it to my colleagues, maybe Apostolis or Elias. And of course, well, I would say in this way, the connector is just like the ATM. Well, when you're taking money, and then you can go to the random stop or anyone to take the money, but it's not creditable, right? It's not trustworthy. And then now you have the connector. Well, suddenly you find out that on the streets, there are different ATMs, different, for example, HSBC and etc., right? Which ATM I should use? So when you're using that, choosing that ATM, for example, like our projects, different projects, there are pros and cons, and then you dip into the technical level. That is how I can extend it to build up a wrap up an interface API to do so. So usually our recommendation that is if you're trying to reduce the difficulty for the development, find that connectors will provide you more features you would like to merge into your own project. So if in this case, they will have less extensions you need to do on top of, for example, FiWare and etc. And of course, the most open source have more community supports, and then that would be great so that you can deep down to it. And then also, you may consider that when you develop some of your own projects components, because we have CPABE, correct me if I'm wrong, Apostolos and Elias, we also ask the CPABE to merge with the PDP and PEP as well. So this is perfectly in line with the SSI wallets. And so we find out that, well, voila, the FiWares can perfectly match us so that we can develop something on top. And usually the interesting way is the connector, when they build up, they don't come up with loads of extension. For example, like they just provide you basic functionality like ABC. now suddenly want to add something on top of it. So a good thing to do is to wrap up an interface to support the D. But when you develop it, be very careful that the outsider or the hackers, they can, get along or avoid the ABC to get into the interface to the D. So this is very important. So do you have any follow-up comments, Apostolos and Elias?
Okay. Hello, it's Elias from University of Thessaly in Greece. So I'm not sure that I understood your question, but if I listened correctly, I believe that there is no, let's say, connector that is plug and play. So there is the need for an effort, for some integration effort with the database systems, with backends of organizations. So also there's a need for maybe some developments, especially if someone goes with connect with the Eclipse DataSpace components, which are a toolbox that one needs to use in order to build his own features for a connector. Yes, to answer, there is some a learning, let's say, curve that that every connector has in order to be able in order for an organization, for example, to be able to integrate with their own systems.
Thank you very much, Elias.
You're welcome.
I think one of the follow-up questions then is, why isn't there a plug-and-play system that you have to lower the technological threshold? Because it was a chemistry project working on development of IoT devices, and they were not so technological competent, but they wanted to have a low entry threshold, and they wanted to follow some standards, creating their own data space, so to speak. So why isn't there a plug-and-play system?
To answer to your question, I would like to bring some perspective of how things are evolving. I've been at IDSA for 5 years now. When I joined, there were only a few connectors available, very complicated to use, and no one would have imagined to be at the stage that we are today with more than 30 connector implementations. We have the EDC, the True Connector, the DataSpace protocol becoming an ISO standard. So we are getting there. And to make the life of end users easier, we see a growing number of companies that offer connectors and data spaces as a service. So this is real right now. I was recently informed by Sovity that they launched a portal for different roles in a data space to manage the infrastructure. So they have this portal via which the end user can manage their own connectors. They have via the portal, a data space authority can orchestrate the whole thing. This would have been unimaginable 5 years ago. So we're getting there. Maybe we can have a chat in 5 years, and you will be super happy with the state of play. Any more comment?
I've spent years and years here. Data spaces where I always have to say, completely agree with Julia. That's the situation. But just a stupid example. Think about email. Nowadays, you can download email client. You can use for free or purchase Outlook, Mozilla, whatever. You have the standard to code your own email client. Email server. You can purchase email server, you can buy email server, open source email servers, quite a lot of options. You can develop your own email server. And it works because there are standards, there are ways, there are agreements, and that's the situation we are trying to reach with data spaces. Not only with connectors, with everything that has to do with data spaces, saying, okay, you will have connectors, Eclipse DataSpace components, other technical pieces. You will be able to program whatever. But today the complexity is so high because we are working on the standards. We have different solutions, different approaches. It's not an easy concept. It's a young concept. It's not new. We spend years now, but we are approaching that situations. And I am confident that we will reach. I think that the standards Julia was speaking about are the key point there. As soon as we have them, we will find that. And as Julia said, even today we have commercial standards. We have commercial solutions, sorry. What happened that if we buy a connector, even as a service today, we need to trust the provider to evolve it, to maintain it, and to update the connector or the broker or the whatever, even anyone providing the identification or the wallet. Because today we are using wallets, but I don't know, perhaps in the future we have the European Common Wallet and we will use it, but it will be open. Can I produce or develop my own wallet compatible with the European wallet? Too many things. How we will deal with identity? We will reach a standard, we hope. And then again, we will be together there. But I think that the situation with the email for me is a clear example. So nowadays it's easy. We exchange emails. I can develop even my own email solution, server or client. But a few years now, it was not so easy. Oh yeah. Perhaps it's not the best example. I am speaking and thinking at the bedtime, but the situation.
It's just the metaphor that I slightly disagree with, because we had some issues of the big vendors. They basically merged email into the three big players, or two big. I mean, it's either Google or Microsoft you have, and if you don't have them, you end up in the spam filters. And we had issues with our own SMTP servers. Microsoft filtering our valid SUNET emails out just because it was SUNET, and there was no technical explanation. But
you gave me an answer for your question. Just imagine email, how old it is, and we still have problems. we are starting with the data spaces, the complexities here.
But I mean, fortunately, email has been replaced with lots of messengers, and I mean, the open messenger protocols. And from that point of view, I like that analogy, and open standards are quite nice. I mean, that's kind of the next question. So the moment the DataSpace protocol becomes an ISO standard, you have to pay to get access to the standard, right? Or do you have a commitment to being open and freely available of the standard?
IDSA started the protocol and will continue maintaining it. And IDSA in its core is an open standard. So don't worry about that, and please stay tuned with the developments. That's a good point.
That's, I think that's one of the. Sure.
If you have to pay to download a standard, then you just deter a lot of projects.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why Eclipse Foundation is there, try to reach as soon as possible the standard and then to promote it. As you say, if we need to pay for everything and it's a standard, it will be not so open and not so used. So I'm not aware, again, of the legal details, but that's not the idea for sure. For sure. Even if there are commercial products even nowadays, we don't want to go there. There are quite a lot of parties around. As I said, it was Amazon, Microsoft, Google, huge players, but research institutions as Technalia, people working in projects in different organizations, institutions. We want to have that. Even the same European Union, they want to make laws, and they are building new things. They are providing regulation acts. If suddenly we need to pay to know that the standard, that will not fair. We are using European money to do European things for the European citizens. That will not make sense if we are going to pay for the standard. At least for me, I have not the technical, the details, the legal ones, but I think that that's not the path we are following for sure.
Thanks a lot. we are running out of time and we have 2 questions still. I will give the floor to a person here in Lecce. She's been waiting for quite a while. Please go ahead, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation and the discussion. This is very interesting. I'm very new to this, so I'm discovering all of it. So you've already answered most of my questions. Maybe a silly one, because yesterday I discovered the presentation from Simple that also had to do with data spaces in EOSC. Are there any links or discussions between you and them?
Thanks a lot for the question. If you don't mind, I will take it first, and you can also add your perspectives. I know that Simple is quite recent compared to other initiatives like IDSA that's been working on data spaces. The standard is open, and we are well connected with them. Furthermore, IDSA is one of the core partners of a project that is called Data Spaces Support Center. Have you heard about it? Okay, so this is a project also funded by the European Commission that aims at providing support to projects that are developing data spaces, like the projects here. And they're creating some tools to support these projects, and also they're creating synergies. And I know for sure that within the, it's called community of practice, they're ensuring that there's a clear link and alignment with Simple. Any additional comment on this? If not, we can move to the question that the audience at home presented. So I will read it out loud for you. What challenges have you encountered in ensuring seamless data discovery and access across different data spaces? So this is the first part. Second part, do you see a growing role for AI in improving data discovery processes, particularly in differentiating between compliance data and sensitive information? Who would like to take this question first? Yeah, 2 questions simultaneously. Let's start with the first one.
I can break the ice, as always. No problem, because those are regular questions. Quite a lot of people wonder about this. And the first, ensuring the seamless data discovery challenges is the same one as any product. Data is product, data is money, data is there. If I am selling mobile phones, this particular model, if I am a shop, I tag a price. And perhaps my colleague here has another shop, and perhaps he tags another price, cheaper, expensive. If we allow people to discover different prices, different data sources, perhaps some data sources are unique, but others, perhaps I can buy weather-related data from different sources, from different units, from different data aggregations. It's not so technical, but it has to do with that market, with that approach. Of course, the technical topics are there, the technical challenges are there, but I like to focus on that kind of challenges of growing the data economy there. Why I'm going to sell that? Anyone can resell my data, why? And let's jump to the artificial intelligence. I am selling my data, and artificial intelligence is going to buy it and to do things with that. The smart contracts, the agreement, the way the data spaces work, we will try, and we are trying to provide security mechanisms to provide enough security to say, okay, this is my data. You are going to use this data for this, this, and that. Is artificial intelligence there? Yes, okay, you can use it. Not, okay, you will not be able to use it. Let's see how this is, see what happens. But for the artificial intelligence world and the context, I think that the data spaces is the holy grail, is the best data source they can ever imagine. Just imagine quality data with a lot of metadata, specific information about the data source, really good quality data, you will be able to access, you will be able to know in advance the data set, the data product, the semantics, the vocabulary, the JSON file in there. You will know exactly what are you buying. For the artificial intelligence people, they are spending quite a lot of time trying to find data, cleaning data, having data spaces there with this kind of information available to the public. That's paradise for artificial intelligence people. And that's the reason why we are trying to manage the usage policies, the way who access, why, how can we ensure that you are not a malicious software or, I don't know, this kind of uses. How can we ensure that you are going to use the data for that usage and only that usage? And we have the same problems that everybody. I can buy a one-time read-only picture, and I can see that in my mobile phone. As soon as I close or block my mobile phone, it will be disappear, but I am able to pick my colleague phone and take a picture of the picture. And there is not security mechanism there. Still nowadays, it is not. We have the same problem in the data spaces world. What happens if I take a picture of the screen with the data? We have no solution for that. We have more solutions. We have other ideas. We have artificial intelligence approaches. And artificial intelligence people is quite happy with data spaces people because we are providing information that they are not reaching nowadays. This is the bright side, and I said the dark side is, okay, if you have algorithms there, are malicious in artificial intelligence, evil bots. We are seeing that in social media. We are trying to think ahead. We are trying to learn from social media, from bots, from pirates, from everything digital. We have experience and we know about, and we are trying not to replicate the same errors on data spaces. We are trying to replicate. I am not an artificial intelligence expert, sorry, but I am really close to them. And we are trying not to replicate that. And we are seeing that we are facing digital world problems. We have the same digital problems that any digital initiative has. And we are trying, as you said, if you have a new protocol, a new way to do things, we would like to know about them because, yeah, we will not. Let's try not to replicate the same problems.
Yes, I like your examples, and I hope our discussion is fruitful for others. In the Netherlands, they have a trusted research environment, SANE. To give you an example, I like this example. Yeah, what happens if I take a screenshot of your screen? You cannot prevent that. So they have implemented a system in their trusted research environment called a blind SANE, where you develop an algorithm based on a generic data set that is non-sensitive, and then you send your algorithm, your compute, your implementation into the trusted research environment that has access to the actual sensitive data and only an approved result, so that the result will be vetted and you will get the outcome as completely anonymized data. So there are some solutions for the problem that you just described available.
I'm sorry for the interruption. We are working in that data visiting. As you said, the data will be on your own premises. The algorithms will fly to your premises and we are thinking about different things about multi-party computation, saying, okay, we are going to move the data between different sources and only you will get your results and I will get my results and both will be good. We will not have any kind of information about the data set we are using, from this kind of magic is difficult, but not impossible nowadays. Yes, we have.
Look at blind SANE. That's the keywords where you will find it. It's developed in the Netherlands.
In data spaces, I think that, Julia, correct me wrong, we are dealing, for example, with this data visiting instead of that data moving, but it's early. We are working there. Homomorphic encryption, multi-party computation, data visiting or data. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. We have several IDSA members in the Netherlands. TNO, I mentioned it earlier, is one of the companies that certify their connector. The Netherlands is super advanced on DataSpace, so great. All right, we still have time for a few questions. In the meantime, I will ask the other two projects to provide a glimpse on the other connectors that they evaluated. Alberto, again.
Me again, so
yeah,
sorry.
sorry, the last one.
So sorry, I'm really fast. Here you have a comparison. And let me highlight that this was a situation December 2022, when we did the comparison, when we choose the Eclipse DataSpace connector, right? Quite a lot of this information is not updated, but this was information we deal with. And then the DataSpace connector was the most obvious option. As I say, it was a standard one. It was one of the first one. It was inside the testbed. It was really well known. So I will chat about it on the bottom of the table, but any other IDS connector in the second line of the table on top, we have quite a lot of them mature, close or really close to IDS certification, following IDS standards, well documented. But we found that they have different open sources. They have different licenses that they were not suitable for us. We like the extensions, plugins concept inside Datamite, inside this specific project. And we think about the usage that even in 2022, well, let's probably 2023, more and more people were approaching Eclipse with the kind of extensions that we will love now. So that was the main reason why we focus on Eclipse DataSpace components. And at the bottom, you have a more specific comparison or comparison about, at the left, the DataSpace connector, and at the right, the Eclipse DataSpace connector with DataSpace components, right? With the mix of the framework. It's easy to do asynchronous communication. And that time, the DataSpace connector was only synchronous. It was, you can read it, deprecated. It was not updated. It was really difficult to maintain, and not many people working there. And let me highlight, this is a really successful item. Let's say quite a lot of people from Fraunhofer, Engine, TNO, quite a lot of people. This DataSpace connector is deprecated because they started doing their own business. We have commercial connectors nowadays. They are working on their own solutions and they are selling them. Huawei is doing the same thing too. They stop the provision of open source and they focus on the money again. And that's good. That's a real situation. They are reaching the market. And the people working there is working on the market. They are providing their own connectors. So quite a lot of features you can see here that they were not on the DataSpace connector and were on the Eclipse DataSpace connector or component. You can almost find all of them on, let's say, state-of-the-art connectors. That it was not the situation then. And well, modular architecture, as I said, quite a lot of different things focusing on this extension plugins and what were we be able to do with the connector there in that time.
Thanks a lot. Are there immediate questions on this? Yes. Please.
Just to clarify, so DSC, the data space connector, what exactly did you mean? Or which one, I mean, compared to IDS, yeah.
It's, you can find in the DataSpace connector report, you can find one that the name is DataSpace connector. It was the name, I cannot remember if the first one, I think it was the first one by Fraunhofer, maintained by people from Fraunhofer. It's not generic. It is the name of the specific one. We have been chatting about that perhaps is what not the best one, because you know you own the name now and you are the reference, and that's not true. Any kind of connector you can find. And please read the report. There are 38 connectors. Right? Yeah, and you will be able to find a table not similar to this one, but similar to the previous one during the previous presentation, with a table with quite a lot of features that is quite easy to compare each one with each other, and easy, at least for me, I think that is easy to decide, okay, I'm going to pick only scalable ones or open source one, or those related to this kind of authentication or to the other. But yes, it's misleading, the name of DataSpace connector, but it's its name. Perhaps we can delete it sometime with Fraunhofer permission. They are going to kill me for sure. But I think that even nowadays, we are trying to avoid this kind of mistakes. Just to let you know, IDS, we use, I am not IDS again, I'm Tecnalia, part of IDS. In IDS, we have IDS Clearinghouse, that is one specific piece of software doing one thing, and Gaia X people, Gaia X technology, they have Gaia X Clearinghouse, that is something completely different. And we both use the same language. In this DataSpace protocol standardization, with this new DataSpace approach, try to read this updated documentation, because the old one is misleading. We use same words for different things from different places. And in this convergence, in this standardization, we are focusing and we are trying really hard to pick the right words for the right things, and without any kind of mismatching, or you will not be wrong. If you read something, you will be really sure about what you are reading, because we have this kind of problems. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So make sure to check out the connector report. That's really a reference in this field. Especially in the conclusion, you will also find some reasoning and also some view graphs that show you how different connector implementations evolved from some frameworks. For example, you will see how many connectors were developed based on these original DataSpace connector from Fraunhofer ISST, which is not maintained anymore. And you will see the growing number of connectors developed, for example, from the EDC. Great. We are running out of time. I will ask the technicians to check if there are other questions from the audience remotely. Okay, if not, we can slowly come to a conclusion for today. I've summarized here some of the key takeaways of today's session. I really like the discussion, so thanks a lot for your questions and for the answers. What can we bring back home from today's session? So first of all, we realized that these IDS connectors, these connectors for data spaces are really crucial. And many connectors are rising from the market. This shows that connectors are built with different functionalities, but interoperability is a must. And the essence of this interoperability is indeed this DataSpace protocol that is really a pivotal change in this game. To underline this need for interoperability, this is also coming from the new European legislations. Please keep in mind that with the new Data Act that will come in force in next year in September, the European Commission mandates some requirements that DataSpace participants will have to stick to ensure a seamless data flow. So even the European Commission is pushing and promoting this harmonization of standards. Then, of course, I'm really glad that we have here experts from 4 projects. Make sure to follow their LinkedIn channels to always stay up to date on the developments. You will be able to download the slides. You will find there also our contact details. Make sure to connect with me and the experts also later on for further deep dives and follow-ups. And last but not least, if you liked what you saw in the discussion and you would like to really become a pioneer in the field, make sure to connect with IDSA. We would love to have you as a member and get your support in continuing this journey together. Great. Thanks a lot.
If I can just 10 seconds, I'd like to thank Lisbon Council for this great opportunity. Julia for organizing these great driven discussions, and everybody for contributing. Thank you everybody for this brainstorming and very elucidating about everything here. And thank you very much, and enjoy your, I think we have a dinner probably now. And I think that was the last activity at the hotel. Tomorrow, all the activities, there are some activities, but at CMCC, somewhere else. So thank you very much. Thank you again. Thank you, Babis. Get well better soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.